Shortly after the release of our new documentary, West Virginia Greyhound Racing, we received word from Grey2K, the animal welfare organization that campaigns for the shutdown of greyhound racetracks, that they'd like to respond to some of the defamatory statements made by kennel owner and Brockton hotshot Steve Saris, as well as offer some corrections to some statements that I made during the voiceover. And I want to share this with you all so that we're holding ourselves to a high journalistic, truth-telling standard. As an independent reporter, I do my best to present both sides fairly and tell the story in a very whole way, but I do find that when I'm covering a polarizing issue that is two-sided, I often tend to subconsciously gravitate toward the perspective of the party that I spent the most time with. And for this episode, I spent most of my time with Steve Saris, both in kennel and at the casino racetrack, and very little time with Grey2K, who I spoke to for only around an hour in the conference room in the lobby of a Holiday Inn Express in Charleston, West Virginia. Still, throughout the edit, I did my best to be fair and balanced, but unfortunately they didn't really think so. They pointed to a number of things they wanted cleared up, and so I want to give them a fair chance to speak their piece even after the documentary has been released. So Mr. Teal's first correction relates to me. I actually made a false statement at 8:33 and inferred that Steve had gained access to the alleged cocaine-positive dog urine during the discovery process of a defamation suit. But the suit was not actually filed in civil court, but rather filed in a separate jurisdiction, specifically with the State Division of Pari-Mutuel Wagering, which is an important distinction. Though Saris claimed that Grey2K defamed him, which caused him to sue, there was no defamation paperwork filed. He didn't sue them either. He filed for the state to change its drug testing process on the grounds that they were using an outdated manual from 2010, and to the surprise of activists, Mr. Saris won the suit, which rendered the results invalid, allowing him to continue his practice. Additionally, they'd like to add that when Steve Saris requested a DNA sample from the alleged cocaine-positive urine that was being held in a laboratory at UC Davis, where he said it was actually human urine, Grey2K USA claims that by the time he requested it, the canine DNA had already degraded so significantly that it couldn't be detected as canine urine, and as default registered as human urine simply because it was so old that the system defaulted. They'd also like to note that they are very involved with the adoption of greyhounds after the racetracks have closed, unlike Saris claims. And more information about Grey2K's involvement in adoption is available on their website. Additionally, when I asked Steve how many dog tracks were open 20 years ago, his answer at 5:01 was hundreds. This is false. At its peak, there were roughly 70 operational dog tracks in the US, and 20 years ago, in 2005, there were only 44 operational dog tracks in the US. The most important misnomer Grey2K points to has to do with the shutdown of the Wonderland Park in Everett, which is abandoned to this day. Using that example, I suggested that after many racetracks close down, they are abandoned forever and they never return to fruition as anything else. But they claim that there are other instances of greyhound racetracks shutting down and then becoming awesome shit after, redeveloping in ways that create new economic opportunity. For example, the former Gulf Greyhound Park in Texas is now slated to become a 12,000-seat A-list concert venue. The Sanford Orlando Kennel Club was redeveloped into a mixed-use facility with housing and a retail space. A former dog track in Jacksonville, Florida was transformed into a KIPP charter school and beyond. If asked, Grey2K could have provided me with examples, but we got them and we got Steve Saris, so we figured let's just tie a bow on it and put it out. They claim that it's hurtful to be falsely accused of having a financial motivation. Kerry Teal says they are currently working to put themselves out of business. Kerry Teal claims he is not doing this for money, doesn't own a home, has no savings, and is not driven by any material considerations. Listen, man, I appreciate it, but it's okay to be driven by some level of material considerations. I understand you do good work for the dogs, but it's okay to want to make an honest living. I think what we were talking about mostly is scale. So if you were getting in, $8 million a year, and you were only putting forth $500,000 for work that pertains to shutting down greyhound tracks, that would be not cool. But evidently, as shown in the pie chart that we displayed for our audience, you're not making a ton of money, and I did my best to actually clarify that. I don't think that I made you guys look any type of way that was particularly bad, but I do appreciate that you guys sent over those supplemental facts to, keep us accountable as journalists, because there's always 2, 3, or 4 sides to every story.